part of the international community. We have fulfilled it in the past, and we will do so today and in the future. But we will decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers.
Ulrich Brueckner is a professor for European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin. He joins me now live from Berlin. Professor, good to see you. Good to have you here with us on TRT World. What do you make of Ursula von der Leyen's comments?
Well, she just gave a State of the Union speech in which she highlighted what the priorities are for the remaining less than a year until the Europeans elect a new European Parliament. And what we can observe in many countries is a swing to the right, that there are a number of xenophobic, Islamophobic people who don't really care about the humanitarian catastrophe in concentrated hotspots like Lampedusa. They rather would want to see Europe turning into a fortress, and Meloni is one of the forerunners in that attitude. So for von der Leyen, it's of utmost importance to find a solution in Europe, both for the humanitarian situation as well as for the more liberal and open-minded and open-hearted Europeans, that the upcoming elections won't turn into a disaster.
Do you think Ursula von der Leyen is able to balance it out, or would you say that lately she has been inclining more towards the right with her comments?
Well, she's in a complicated position. She appears somehow as the head of a European government, but the European Union is not the United States of Europe or the Federal Republic of Europe. It is a construct of sovereign states. And if the mood in the sovereign states is we are afraid of populist movements, in Germany, the Alternative für Deutschland, in France, what we hear from Le Pen, and Italy even elected a right-wing government with Meloni as the face of a xenophobic and Islamophobic government, then it's extremely difficult to find a European solidarity mechanism that has been discussed and prepared by the European Commission, but this is far from a practical and workable compromise.
One thing that really stood out for me from her comment was the fact that she said that Europe's future is being played out. I mean, that's a dramatic escalation in the tensions when it comes to the migrant crisis in the European Union, is it not?
It is very serious, because we only have to look at what UNHCR counts every year. When we had the so-called migration crisis in 2015-16, it was 1 million something refugees that arrived in Europe, which is a space of almost 500 million people and one of the richest parts of the world. And that was considered to be a crisis because of the lack of infrastructure. Now UNHCR counts 100 million people fleeing from one place to another. They usually go from poor countries to other poor countries, and only a very small portion makes it across the Mediterranean. And this causes such a drama like what we see in Lampedusa, which is of course just a rock in the Mediterranean and not Italy. But when we only look at the numbers, even if 100,000 people arrive in Italy, Italy is a country with 60 million people. And they didn't make a fuss about 300,000 Ukrainian refugees entering. This was just accepted. But if 100,000...
Professor, if I may, so you are indicating that it's about the color of their skin and the race, is it not?
It does play a role. I don't want to generalize and call everyone a racist, because there are a number of socioeconomic problems in the South that have indirectly to do with migration too. But there is a big difference between Ukrainian refugees and people coming from the South.
Professor Ulrich, it's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.